A silent question often arises in the late hours when a woman lies awake, perhaps next to a quiet partner, perhaps in a home that feels vast after years of fullness. She rarely voices the thought, but it drifts in like a forgotten melody. Am I too old for this? Too old to touch, to feel, to desire? You may have whispered this to your own reflection, even if you would never admit it aloud. You rationalize the quietness with science. Hormones, dryness, the passage of time. You conclude that your body's capacity for intimate feeling has simply been pensioned off. But what if that conclusion is a clinical error? What if the body isn't failing, but merely transforming, teaching itself a new lexicon of pleasure that no one ever provided a key to understand? Lately, the patients I see, women in their 60s and 70s, have shared a fascinating pattern of evidence. They report that desire no longer localizes to the familiar regions. What once ignited a quick, sharp fire now registers as a soft hum, but a new, deeper warmth has begun to bloom in unexpected territories. And this is what 3 decades of listening to the whispers and signals of the female body have taught me. The body never forgets how to feel. It simply evolves a new dialect for expression. Welcome back to the Female Health Podcast, where we open the clinical conversations most women have been taught to close. I am Dr. Lily Stones, a gynecologist and specialist in intimate health psychology. Today, we explore a topic that has the potential to permanently recalibrate your post-menopausal self-perception. This is more than self-touch. It is about the enduring potential of your body and the unspoken chapters it waits to reveal. Stay with me, because in this video, I will present the 6 verifiable truths that validate why women over 60 are being encouraged to consciously reconnect with their own sensation. We will dismantle the silent cultural myths that have acted as inhibitors, review the biological proof that the body retains a somatic memory, and reveal the secret neurological adaptation deep within your nervous system, a shift that remains largely undocumented in common health resources. At the very end, I will share the surprising discovery, the reason some women now describe experiencing richer sensation than in their 40s, though in unconventional zones. Don't navigate away. The whisper that began as, "Am I too old for this?" may conclude with a profoundly different affirmation. For generations, women were quietly handed a toxic narrative. It wasn't delivered in one bold statement. It was absorbed through subtle glances, media portrayals, and pervasive silence. The core lie was this: your worth is measured by your fertility and youth. And once that youthful phase recedes, your body is relegated to an object to manage and medicate, not a source of pleasurable engagement. Most women never questioned this. They internalized the minor physical degradations of aging as definitive proof that pleasure operated with a strict expiration date. When menopause arrived, society provided the script: that phase of life is finished. Even medical science for many years treated post-menopausal intimacy as a dispensable luxury rather than an essential component of holistic well-being. And so, the silence began. Women stopped asking the deeper questions. They ceased guiltlessly touching themselves. They were led to believe that desire was somehow anachronistic, even shameful. The most peculiar consequence: that silence started to sound like clinical truth. I have witnessed this narrative countless times in my clinic. A patient, perhaps 65, outwardly poised and calm, will, just as the appointment concludes, lean across my desk. Her voice softens to a confidential murmur, and she asks the question she has carried for years. "Doctor, is there something wrong with me for still wanting this?" Every time I hear that, I feel a complex mix of professional sadness and intellectual awe. Sadness, because somewhere along her path, she was taught to apologize for the vitality within her own skin. Awe, because even after decades of being told to quiet her body's voice, the body still insists on speaking. Desire persists, a gentle yet resilient force, asking to be acknowledged again. This is the false premise we must unlearn: that pleasure is an exclusive domain of the young, the romantically partnered, or reliant upon external validation. The truth, and it is a truth your biology vehemently insists upon, is that pleasure is not a luxury. It is a communication of vitality. When your body responds to touch, warmth, or proximity, it is not being indiscreet. It is speaking the language of aliveness. But these cultural myths are not easily dissipated. Many women carry them as invisible psychological burdens. They recall the warnings from their mothers, the non-verbal cues from past partners, the absence of candid conversations among friends. Over time, silence becomes an entrenched habit. You stop reaching for yourself, not because the desire is absent, but because the action feels prohibited. Yet deep inside, a physiological certainty tells you this cannot be the full story. Your body does not decommission its capacity for sensation at 50 or 60. The neural pathways do not abruptly shut down. Hormones are remodulated, certainly, but beneath that shift lies a quieter, more intricate neurological transformation, one that is rarely addressed, even by most physicians. And here is the clinical point to embrace. Many women who believe their bodies have fallen somatically silent are actually standing at the threshold of a new sensory capacity. A sensitivity that does not mimic the urgency of youth, but profoundly redefines pleasure. In a moment, we will explore the mechanism of this, how your body, decades post-menopause, still retains the memory of aliveness. Because biology has a memory, and it is far more loyal than you think. Stay with me, because in the next part of this story, we will begin to uncover that memory. The body you presumed had forgotten may actually be waiting to surprise you. Your body remembers more than you concede. Even if there has been a long interval since you last felt that familiar spark, the neural pathways that once conducted it are intact. They have merely fallen into a state of latency, patiently awaiting your attentive return. Post-menopause, so many physical realities shift that it is easy to assume the story of pleasure is concluded. The reflection shows new contours, new lines, a softer metabolic rhythm. The body may feel slower to respond, less predictable, and yes, at times, less overtly eager. But beneath this surface of change lies an intact network that still hums with potential. Every woman is born with an intricate, specialized web of nerves, blood vessels, and receptors designed for connection and sensation. This network is age-resistant. The true change is in the mode of transmission. As estrogen declines, tissues may thin and dryness can increase. But the pleasure-generating system remains viable. It simply shifts from a shout to a whisper. Upon tactile stimulation, even gently, the body still responds with physiological precision. Blood flow is redirected toward the pelvic floor. Oxygen nourishes the tissues. The nerves, even the quieter ones, begin to reawaken like roots absorbing hydration after a drought. The brain releases oxytocin, the calming neuropeptide that reduces tension and mitigates isolation. Endorphins begin to flow, elevating mood, reducing anxiety, and affirming that your body is still fully capable of joy. And perhaps the most beautiful clinical truth is this: your body requires no permission to respond. It does not perform a chronological check, the AG 25 verses 72. It listens only to attention, warmth, and kindness. When you offer these, it begins to restore its trust in you. I recall one patient, 71, a quiet widow, who had clinically resigned herself to the permanent absence of desire. It felt like my body had been repossessed, she shared. But when she began a slow, non-goal-oriented exploration, she noticed something unexpected. Her body was not non-responsive, it was cautious. It required reassurance. The moment she stopped trying to force a youthful response and simply listened, her body answered. The response was modified, but softer, deeper, and more profound. That story is a testament to the resilience encoded in the flesh. Your body does not forget its innate function. It only needs to be reminded that it is safe to feel. So, if you have ever believed you were past this capacity, consider this alternative. Perhaps you are not past it at all. Perhaps your body is quietly reorganizing, forging new routes to pleasure, and rewriting its sensory map. And that insight, the idea that your nervous system itself may be shifting, is where the story becomes truly riveting. Because the experience post-60 is not merely a continuation of menopausal symptoms. It is a transformation that medical science is only now beginning to decode. In the next part, I will detail this transformation, the subtle, secret rewiring happening in your body right now, and how it may be the key to sensations in places you never previously acknowledged. Stay with me. The truth we are about to uncover changes everything you thought you knew about aging and desire. There is a precise moment sometime after 60 when many women begin to perceive an inexplicable change. It is not hormonal or related to vasomotor symptoms. It is quieter, subtler, like a new rhythm pulsing beneath the surface of the skin. Touch feels different. Not gone, but relocated. I have documented the descriptions. My body's sensory map has shifted, one woman told me. Another said, I still feel pleasure, but it's not where it used to be. It's as if my body is guiding me to a new territory. These are not isolated case reports. They form a consistent pattern that is as puzzling as it is profound. Scientific inquiry has begun to focus on this. We know that, as women age, the nervous system demonstrates increased adaptability. The body, an intrinsically intelligent system, begins to redistribute sensitivity, creating alternative neural pathways for sensation as the established ones become quieter. You do not lose the ability to feel. You simply begin to feel differently. While this is still an emerging area of research, with concepts labeled neural adaptation or sensory plasticity, the nomenclature is less significant than the experiential uniformity. Post-60, your nervous system quietly re-engineers itself. The clitoris may achieve a heightened sensitivity, but in modified ways and often in adjacent or distant regions. Some women report intensified pleasure along the inner femoral region, others in the lower abdominal quadrant, the hip joints, or just inferior to the umbilicus. It is as though your body, after decades of service, chooses to open new doors of sensation, ones you were unaware existed. Consider the context. For much of life, your body's pleasure response was implicitly directed toward procreation or intimacy defined by external rhythms. Once those reproductive years conclude, your body is freed from that old biological script. It becomes freer, less subject to biological imperatives, more attuned to self-generated sensation. Some call it a reawakening, others a redirection. I view it as the body reasserting its inherent wisdom, remembering that touch was always meant to serve you first. And the most fascinating clinical detail, the brain is complicit. Neuroimaging studies indicate that when older women experience pleasure, the cortical regions associated with self-awareness and calm illuminate more vividly than those tied to urgency or performance anxiety. In essence, this pleasure is transformed from merely physical to mindful, less about release, more about arrival in the present moment. So, if you've noticed that what once felt electric now feels quieter, or that new sensations have materialized in unfamiliar zones, do not dismiss it. Your body is not dysfunctional. It is communicating. It is reallocating its energetic resources to the regions that require it most, the ones that have carried you, supported you, and patiently awaited acknowledgement. And in just a moment, I will guide you deeper into this discovery, into what I term the hidden map of pleasure. Because understanding this map is not just about reclaiming touch. It is about understanding the nature of your evolving self and the unspoken message your body has been attempting to convey all along. A moment arrives in every woman's life when she realizes her body is not deteriorating. It is evolving. What was once familiar may diminish, yes, but in that attenuation, something novel emerges. The body you inhabit post-60 is not a faint echo of youth. It is a wiser instrument, tuned to subtler frequencies. When you learn the art of listening, those notes can resonate in ways you never imagined. Let us discuss this hidden map, the one for which you received no navigation guide. Imagine your neural pathways as routes through a garden. Over time, some become overgrown, while others begin to bloom in new directions. What if, instead of attempting to force your body to feel what it once did, you permit it to reveal where it currently desires touch? Many women over 60 describe sensation blooming in unconventional territories, along the inner femoral region, across the lower abdomen, or the lateral hips. Some state that the lightest brush of fingertips, just inferior to the navel, sends a ripple through the body. Something both tender yet electric. Others find warmth spreading across the chest or the lumbosacral region. Areas that were once somatically neutral are now unexpectedly active. It is as if the nervous system, no longer singularly focused on reproductive biology, decides to distribute its pleasure more broadly. The clitoris, while remaining the centerpiece, connects through a vast network of nerve endings that extends far beyond the common anatomical models taught in school. As we age, that network becomes less localized and more fluid. The borders of pleasure blur, sensation expands, and perhaps that is the unspoken secret post-menopause. Pleasure does not shrink, it disperses. You may not experience the same pulse of urgency as before, but its substitute is far richer. A slower, more comprehensive awareness that fills the body like ambient light. The body begins to respond to warmth, texture, rhythm, scent, and memory in new dimensions. It ceases to pursue intensity and begins to savor intimacy. I once spoke to a patient 74 who shared that she had stopped trying to perform correctly and simply began exploring what her body enjoyed. She found that a soft touch along her thighs or gentle circles over her abdomen provided a sense of profound peace she hadn't known in decades. It wasn't fireworks, she observed. It was sunrise. That image encapsulates what this new map truly is, not a return to youth, but an awakening to something calmer, deeper, and profoundly alive. So, if your body feels different now, do not mourn the past sensations. Cultivate curiosity about the waiting discoveries. Your current nervous system is not broken. It is creative. It is building new routes to help you feel secure, connected, and fully present again. And here is the most surprising clinical observation. When women begin to explore these new sensations, a change occurs far beyond the sexual sphere. They walk taller. They laugh more easily. They feel anchored, as if they have reclaimed a part of their identity that was never truly lost. This is because the process is not just about touching your skin. It is about engaging with the narrative of life. Stay with me a little longer. In our final part, we will return to the genesis of this story, the whisper of doubt, the self-imposed silence, and how it all culminates in something profoundly beautiful. The homecoming of a woman who finally realizes that her capacity for pleasure never truly left her. It was simply waiting for her to listen. A moment comes, sometimes quietly, sometimes with tears of recognition, when a woman realizes she never truly lost herself. The years, the changes, the silence, they only made her forget how alive she still is. But once she starts listening again, her body responds. Gently at first, then unmistakably. This is the homecoming. Not a regression to a past state, but a return to belonging within your own body. Post-60, your relationship with pleasure is no longer about proving capacity. It is about remembering that you are deserving. It is about slowing down enough to perceive what your body has been whispering all along. I am still here. I still feel. I still want to be touched with kindness. When women begin to honor that voice, a remarkable change occurs. They move differently, not because of superficial confidence, but because of a peace emanating from beneath the skin. They speak with greater softness, laugh with more ease. They begin to radiate a quiet certainty that only comes from being fully at home in their own flesh. This kind of pleasure is not focused on climax or performance metrics. It is not a chase for what once was. It is a rediscovery of what is. The simple act of breathing into your body, touching it without judgment, and expressing gratitude for its endurance through decades of life. I often tell my patients, your body is not your past, it is your present. Every nerve, every line, every curve tells a story of survival, adaptation, and grace. And when you reach this stage of life, pleasure becomes something sacred. Not an act of self-indulgence, but of reverence. So, if you have ever felt that you were too old, remember this clinical truth. Your body hasn't closed its doors. It has simply rearranged the furniture. The pleasure you once knew hasn't vanished. It has migrated to a deeper room, quieter, warmer, more intimate, waiting for you to step inside. This is the hidden truth no one told you. Post-60, your nervous system does not surrender. It evolves. The clitoris may awaken in new ways. The thighs may hum. The belly may soften with sensation because pleasure doesn't die with age. It matures. It widens. It deepens. And perhaps that is the most powerful secret of all. You don't lose pleasure with time. You grow into it. If these words resonate with your experience, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Tell me if you felt those quiet shifts, those new sparks in unexpected places. Because when women speak candidly about these things, shame fades and freedom expands. And if you are just beginning to explore, approach it slowly. Begin with gratitude, not goals. Touch your body as you would comfort someone you deeply love, with patience, curiosity, and respect. That is where this new chapter begins. Thank you for spending this time with me. This is the Female Health Podcast, where women over 60 reclaim the stories their bodies still want to tell. Because your pleasure doesn't fade, it evolves. And your body, your beautiful, changing, awakening body, is still writing its most intimate chapter.